Hello everybody and welcome back to a brand new episode of F1 23 Driver Career Mode here on the channel. I hope you're all having a great day. Today we have the Italian Grand Prix fresh off of our 5th win of the season, tying Aiden Jackson for the most wins on this season. And now here we are going into Ferrari's home Grand Prix, and no better time than Ferrari to drop an absolute bombshell of an announcement for the future of the team.
We've got massive news from Ferrari this weekend. They have confirmed a whole new driver lineup for next year. Lewis Hamilton will return to Formula One, and he will be alongside Max Verstappen, who is seeking a change of scenery from Red Bull.
And there we have massive news. Not only is Carlos Sainz out, but Max Verstappen makes it official. He will be departing Red Bull at the end of the season, going to Ferrari, but he's going up against none other than a returning Lewis Hamilton. Of course, Hamilton in his first season out of Formula One has mentioned many times how he has dreamt of driving for a Ferrari, as many drivers of course have. And we always see it, especially a lot of legends of the sport return after a season or two out of Formula One, and I felt like if this kind of plot line was going to happen for Hamilton, this was the time to do it with the current situation at Ferrari and Leclerc as well. So it all just kind of works out, and now we're about to have Hamilton v Verstappen on the same team next season at Ferrari. That is going to be absolutely epic to watch. Verstappen, he's been, of course, turning things up lately, but it's not the performance that's really causing him to want to leave Red Bull. It's him wanting a change in scenery that's really making him actually leave Red Bull Ford, as he's of course been within the Red Bull program his whole career, going up through into Formula One, so he has now decided to make that shift over to Ferrari. But of course we still have the rest of the season to focus in, but definitely the biggest news we've seen so far, and there is still news on the way. But we roll into qualifying on a Saturday afternoon. It was chucking it down in terms of rain. It's going to be a dry Grand Prix, which could hurt us, but we've been so strong in the wet, so this hopefully will lead to a relatively competitive qualifying effort. Probably not a pole position, but if we can come out of here with a top 5, I think that would be because of the rain. We were P10 in Q1 on the wets, while Zhou, Dragovic, Butler, Mayer, and Hughes all out in this first qualifying session. Going into Q2, we were actually able to get onto the intermediate compound tire. The weather would let up just a little bit, but this is basically right here what it would stay for the rest of qualifying. And at Q2, it was about the same compared to what I did in Q3 in terms of lap time and whatnot. We actually went P3, and I would try to find a little bit more pace, but I threw it away in the second chicane. So that first lap we have to bank on, and that would drop us down to P8 while Verstappen's at the top. Look at this, Russell out with Pourchaire, Ocon, Lawson, and Iwasa. Pierre Gasly was able to knock Russell out and get up towards the top 5. So Pierre Gasly in Alpine, fresh off of a, better looking, I guess, turn of events going into the last episode in their home Grand Prix. Can they keep it up here in Monza now? But my first lap in Q3, it was going pretty well here through the first couple of chicanes, and my main struggle here in the rain was getting the car slowed down for the first chicane, and I was able to get it down on this lap, and overall we put together a pretty competitive lap here now, so I'm really hoping that it's going to show and shine once we cross the stripe here. Now as we exit this final turn, what is it going to be? Gasly, Norris, Tsunoda just in front of us. We cross the stripe, P2, Verstappen P3, Sainz pole. We would continue to go faster on our second lap, but so was everybody else. Sainz back to the top of the board over Aiden Jackson, who had moved up as well in front of myself. Leclerc to the pole position, and then Alex Albon is going to come through and go pole position. We're down to 5th and 6th as Verstappen improves, but we have got 0.3 of a second gain in it. What's it going to be? To the line, and we're going to cross it, and it's going to be an improvement up to row number 2, P4 on the grid. Albon, Leclerc, Sainz, myself, Jackson, Verstappen, then Tsunoda, Gasly, Oscar Piastri, as well as Lando Norris rounding out the rest of the grid. Mercedes continue to struggle. Can they find anything? It's going to be hard. Let's head to the grid Sunday. Let's go racing in Monza.
We're back in Italy once again for another round of the Formula One World Championship. And what a great race is in store for us today, here at the oldest circuit on the calendar, which hosted its first race all the way back in 1922. With top speeds up to 215 and an average lap speed of around 155 miles per hour, Monza's reputation as one of the fastest circuits in the sport is well earned. We have 11 corners on this 3.6 mile track, with the best overtaking chance coming into the heavy braking zone of the Turn 1 chicane. Before we begin, let's take a quick look at the grid lineup for today's race. What a great lap from Alexander Albon yesterday. He'll start from pole position, and it's Charles Leclerc in P2. Looking at the rest of today's grid, we have Sainz, Golden Boy, Jackson, Verstappen, Tsunoda, Gasly, Oscar Piastri, Norris, Russell, Théo Pourchaire, Ocon, Liam Lawson, Iwasa, Joe, Drugovich, Butler, Mayer and Jake Hughes. It's almost time for those 5 red lights to go out then. Let's see who can prevail today. Anthony Davidson also joins me in the commentary box today. Why don't we start by talking about Carlos Sainz? That was a great win in the last race, but can they keep that momentum going into this weekend?
There are never any guarantees in this business, but certainly the performance last time out would have boosted their confidence coming into this one.
We're ready to roll here in Monza for the Italian Grand Prix. As usual, we're going to be starting on that medium compound tire, and then we'll shift over to that hard a little bit later in the Grand Prix, about lap 14. Let's get ready to roll for the formation lap.
Here we go then. The formation lap gets underway, and the excitement here is building as we near ever closer to the start of the race. Which team will come out on top? Who's got their strategies right for today's race? Well, we'll soon find out. So as all the cars take their positions on the grid, the teams will be hoping their strategies pay off for them in today's race. But the question I'm asking is which teams have got it right, which ones have got it horribly wrong?
All right, a long run into turn 1 here. Get the elbows out.
You know I like to use my elbows, Mark. Let's get after it. And the second bit of news is out this weekend. I do indeed like to use my elbows whenever I can, as the back of the grid is lining up, and we're ready to roll in Italy for the second time this season here in Monza, however, compared to Imola. Now, Albon, Leclerc, Sainz, myself, the first 2 rows. Albon hasn't won since the 3rd race of this season. He won those first 3 Grand Prix, don't forget, but he's got a terrible start immediately. Leclerc to the lead. It's a great start for myself. We probably get a better one than anybody on the grid. Now we swing to the left of Leclerc on the softs, going to have a bit more grip. Going down into turn 1, we're going to lunge it down into the corner side by side. Behind us, it's already 3 wide. Look at this. That's Sainz going at it with Albon, and through goes Yuki Tsunoda in the Aston Martin there. He has been getting those elbows out. We don't know what the driver lineup looks like, going in Aston Martin next season, because it looked pretty I guess stale, or the same as it already is, I should say, as Tsunoda and Piastri. But now Aston Martin's bringing some serious upgrades over these last few episodes, and going forward, that they're going to be a legitimate contender, I think, next season, and this could open the door for some better opportunities for that team. So Tsunoda into 3rd, and he's putting pressure on myself. I'm over a second behind already of Leclerc, and Tsunoda and Albon both on the softs. Tsunoda briefly took a look, does not act on it, so we stay ahead here in P2 through this chicane, and we'll continue to kind of just struggle for pace. And now Tsunoda swings to the left. Albon's got a slipstream. Is he going to go for it? Yes, he is. We can't cover 3 wide in the middle. I say, no way, Jose. I'm going to back out of that one, let you guys go at it. It's only the first lap of the Grand Prix. So Tsunoda through to 2nd, Albon 3rd, myself, Jackson 4th and 5th. But now Albon using that McLaren power to the right side. I'm already out of battery right there for when I'm able to actually deploy throughout a lap. So that brought me backwards a little bit. Tsunoda swings across their nose and does damage to the left side of the front wing as we go side by side. Now damage on the floor, and then damage on the side pod as Sainz runs into the side of us. So we have had damage on the front wing, damage on the floor from the turn 1 curb, and now damage on the side pod in a matter of about 6 or 7 seconds. What the was he doing? He just turned right on the straightaway.
We're reporting it to the stewards. We saw it.
And you hear it's being reported to the stewards. I mean, Tsunoda just glided to the right, and it wasn't much, I mean, to be fair, but it was enough to where I was coming with a bunch of momentum. He swung over just enough for me to hit him, and now we have damage, and you can see I'm struggling, obviously. We got damage everywhere, so we're just hanging on to the end of the lap. We got to pit immediately and fix this front wing. Obviously, we're not going to be able to fix the side pod. We're not going to be able to fix the floor. We damaged the floor on the turn 1 curbs there immediately after, and the side pod was from that contact with Sainz in turn 2, so really just a disaster disaster. The wings going off, and now, of course, a new one on. And the only way we're going to be able to get back into this race is some form of safety car. We need to hope for a safety car and have a little bit of luck go our way. That's the only way we're going to have a chance here today in Monza to make up some points now, but not the day we were looking for fresh off that win in France. It is what it is. We're going to fight. We're going to continue, and the battles were continuing all throughout the circuit here. Albon, Tsunoda, Jackson, they were going 3 wide. I mean, with the slipstream, with the DRS on this long straightaway here in Monza, it really opens up opportunities for a lot of 3 wide action, maybe even 4 wide action at some points if they're feeling frisky enough here. And you can see these were still battles happening right behind this group that we were just paying attention to at the front. That was a sandwich, Mercedes sandwich Piastri was in right there. Russell and Norris 7th and 9th currently, but Piastri, I mean, he's going to be able to get in front. I mean, right now, Mercedes is just continuing to struggle here. They just can't seem to find the pace that they need, and you have to wonder what's going on with this team. They started the season pretty good. It's just not going the way they expected it to. The battle up front continues as we started lap 6. I'm just out on my own island. I was about 18 seconds behind, but look at this big group of cars right here. As we go down towards turn 1, that's Drugovich. Drugovich slow. He's got an issue. He's got a mechanical failure, and he plows into the back of Gasly, and he crashes himself out of the Grand Prix. Felipe Drugovich, the rookie, with a big shunt there, and that's going to bring up the safety car, and I was coming up on the pit lane at that time. This opens the door of opportunity that we needed. We come in, we're putting on a set of medium tires here, and we're going to go back out and, you know, see what we can do. This is not going to gain us any positions, but it at least allows us to be on a quicker tire. Leclerc pits, and a lot of drivers are going to pit right here. Basically, the whole field is going to pit during the safety car period, but they do it a little bit differently. They all kind of pit on different laps here, across 2 different laps, I should say. Kind of got split half and half. We actually do end up gaining 1 position through this whole safety car pit stop scenario, and that was over Max Verstappen. Verstappen would drop in behind me, so he pitted on the second go around. Now Jackson and Sainz stayed out on track, so they're the only 2 that have not made a pit stop. And as we were going back racing from 18th on the grid, they would actually pit as we were coming to the green. So the top 2 cars come in, Jackson and Sainz. I get caught a bit napping right there. Piastri down in 15th now as well. Basically anybody that pitted on the second lap around got the short end of the stick position-wise, as you could expect, because everybody's now grouped up at that point, as Verstappen actually was able to get past me into turn number 1 here now. So they're going to go side by side. I'm trying to get aggressive here and go to the left side right now of the Aston Martin. We would continue alongside down into the next chicane, where we eventually take the position from the Australian, move up into P16 as Jackson and Sainz are way far back. What can they do here now, as we'll go to the right side of Calimere at the end of this first lap of racing? Verstappen is 2.5 down the road. He was a lot more aggressive and more competitive getting through some of these cars than I was, and that was certainly costing me some time, but then we would close it right back up, as he was of course still trying to navigate through that traffic that we were now running down. And if you look at the track map, Leclerc's gone. He's driven away because we have such a, confused grid with the different timings of pit stops under the safety car. That's really shuffled things up. Of course, the slower cars have gotten further up the grid. They're going to eventually drift down, but it's just really making things really weird. And it only helps me. It's perfect for me. And once again, we've kind of gotten a bit of a break here. Mark trying to get us to make another pit stop. We're taking these mediums, however, to the end of this race. Now, look at this mess that we're coming up on. You got Verstappen right here, Tsunoda, Butler, Albon as well, Pourchaire. I mean, so many cars right here. One of the Mercedes is up there as well. It's a complete disaster. And you can see we're just crawling through here. I mean, at Monaco lap 1 pace, of course, going into the hairpin. It was just such a slow crawl, and Verstappen's going unbelievably aggressive into the chicane. He was going 3 wide. Tsunoda thinks better of it. I backed out, and then I'm struggling for a grip in multiple moments there in that corner, and Lawson nearly with a big moment. Hughes and him fortunately avoid contact, but this is just an absolute mess, to say the least here. And you can see just trying to work our way past these cars, passing Devin Butler, Connor Sport. Devin Butler picked up points for the first time this season, last episode in the French Grand Prix. We still don't know the future for Butler or Connor Sport as well. But, focusing in on us, I mean, just continuing to move forward here, now passing Pourchaire in the Alfa Romeo Haas, and we're almost into the points, and I was really thankful that this whole strategy mess has happened, because it just gives us a good opportunity here. But look at the track map. I mean, Leclerc's into turn 1 now, while second place is crossing the line, and that's George Russell. It's such a weird scenario that we found ourselves in. You got these fast cars mixed with slower cars. Zhou Guanyu and the Williams can't do much. We're going to breeze past this. It's like a 4-for-1 special in the last 10 seconds. Thank you very much. Into 8th place we go as we continue to fly through this grid too deep into turn 1. Thankfully, I got to slow down just enough to remain within the track limits there. But these mediums firing up. A lot of the cars around us were on hards. Gasly, though, on softs. Leclerc was just now pitting, actually. Leclerc was pitting from the lead because he was also on another pit stop strategy because he was on the softs, just like Pierre Gasly. He's going to have to come in again. So Leclerc, as we're continuing to make passes, bringing Tsunoda with us, he's going to drop down a little ways, and he's going to have to basically play catch-up. Fortunately for Charles, he was able to come out in a relatively solid gap now, but unfortunately for me, yeah, Tsunoda breezes past me here in the first opportunity on the DRS. It's very important to remember, although we fixed the front wing, we still have very big floor damage and side pod damage. But now, let's go through the grid.
Russell bringing some life to Mercedes as they still seek their first win of the year. A second place effort from Norris in France, and now they fight for the win again today.
A lot of help to put Russell in this position. Remember, he once said it doesn't matter how you get it. However, I think he may have to wait another week as Verstappen is running him down quickly.
And to expand on Verstappen, we have Christian Horner on the pit wall. You got us, Christian?
Yeah, I got you.
Christian, what went into this move for Max to Ferrari next year? Did you see this coming?
We knew it was a 50-50 shot to keep him. He expressed wanting a change 2 years ago, so we're amazed he is still here today. Max likes to try new things, and unfortunately for us, he felt it was the right time for a change.
Any insight on who could be in that seat next year, Christian?
Right now, we're looking at Leclerc and Drugovich.
And we know Lewis Hamilton's coming back next year and joining Ferrari as well. How do you expect him and Max to get on?
Two megastars of the sport. We knew Lewis would come back at some point. I think they've put 2021 behind them and will get on fine. It's down to Ferrari to manage two superstars. Good luck with that.
All right, thanks, Christian.
Yep, thanks, guys.
And there you have through the grid, and there you have Max Verstappen. He's run Russell down by a whole second since through the grid started, and he's passed him into turn 1. And look who's run me down. Charles Leclerc has gone from the pit lane out, obviously at such a massive lead, and was able to run me back down and pass me. Leclerc, I mean, there's a world here where he could still win this Grand Prix. He is absolutely flying on those brand new mediums. He was already 2 seconds up the road, but like I said before, through the grid section, you know, we still have damage on the floor, quite heavy damage, damage on the side pods. The car was just not driving good. I had nothing. This was, you know, the furthest I could take this car. And unfortunately for me, the two cars behind me, Jackson and Piastri, were closing the gap. They are on a bit fresher tires, specifically Jackson, but as well Piastri's on those hards that just have a little bit more life in them towards the end of this Grand Prix, and they were both hauling the mail up to me, and you can see it. I mean, by the time we were coming to start lap 24, they were within about half a second of a reach. So it's going to be game on. And I actually missed the apex here into the chicane after catching the right side tires onto the grass, and that basically puts me on opening the door phase for these guys to, you know, enter. And here comes Jackson. He's going to pass us. Not going to be much in the tank for myself right there. We're going to fight as hard as we can, specifically against Jackson, because we know the point situation. We need to try and keep ourselves in this fight, but there's just not enough in it. We continue to struggle and trying to do what I can, you know, trying to replicate what Jackson's able to replicate with the damaged car. As you can see, is just not going to happen. So we lose a position there to Piastri, pushing just a little bit too hard, but fortunately with the DRS in the battery, we can at least get back in front of Piastri on the run towards turn 1. But actually being able to put the fight to Aiden Jackson is just not going to happen. With 2 laps to go, Verstappen leads. Leclerc has driven all the way up into second place, and he is significantly quicker than Verstappen and everybody. But it looks like his first win of the season and in his final season with Ferrari is still going to have to wait as the final lap is underway here in Monza. I mean, what a going-away gift it would be for Leclerc to win in Monza for the first time this season. Of course, we know he's leaving Ferrari. Verstappen's leaving Red Bull. Good chance Leclerc's coming to Red Bull with us next season. But Max Verstappen's second win of the season. He continues to try and keep his slim hopes of a world championship for the 5th time in his career alive, as it's going to be Leclerc, Albon on the podium. Albon will make big gains on Jackson in the points, who's P6. But I have pressure right now from Piastri on the run down towards the final corner. corner. Piastri is just barely able to keep it up the inside of obviously nowhere close enough to make a move on Jackson, and we're wheel to wheel, but Piastri gets us there on the exit of the final turn. He goes into harvesting mode right at the end. It's not enough. He gets us for P7, P8. Not what we needed. Not what we needed at all. We struggled, of course, all Grand Prix long with the damage. Relatively solid recovery drive, but not what I expected. Verstappen, driver of the day with the victory. Let's go see the podium celebrations.
It was a magnificent race and a drive right out of the top draw to take the win for Red Bull today. And talk to me. What do you think it was that sealed the win for them?
I feel like consistency was probably the key today. There's being quick, and then there's being quick lap after lap after lap. If you can do that, you can capitalise on other people's errors without making many of your own. And that's an approach that can push you a long way up the field.
So Verstappen at least continues the success of Red Bull, because, you know, in these recent races where we haven't won, at least Verstappen's been up there and going for the wins, and it still continues. We've only been on the podium together twice this season, but Verstappen, I mean, he's certainly turned it up lately. Obviously in France, we saw those continuous struggles that he has had come back out, and he had a miserable day there with the spin late, bringing out the safety car, finishing towards the back of the grid. It didn't quite go in the direction he needed, but he is able to bounce back well. But obviously, we know the news. Verstappen, it's not about the performance right now. It's about a change of scenery for him. He's leaving Red Bull Ford, and he'll be going to Ferrari next season. I mean, this has got to make Ferrari fans happy, of course, here in Monza, knowing, well, Max Verstappen's winning this Grand Prix, and he's coming to drive our car next season alongside, don't forget, Lewis Hamilton. That's going to be extremely exciting. But let's take a look at the driver standings here following the Italian Grand Prix. And Jackson's now, his gap cut to 3 points to Albon, 27 to us. Verstappen, 83 points back. It's still possible. It is still possible. But it's going to be hard. The Constructors, 107 back. I mean, if Verstappen and myself can really get some consistency, never say never, but it's going to be hard there as well. That's going to wrap it up for me. I believe we're headed to Singapore in the next episode. I'll see you guys then. Have a great day.